Howdy folks, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. This is what I like to call a short, and that's where I don't really have enough video to produce a long tutorial and then also doing a short recipe. So what I like to do is when I just have a quick lesson, maybe on technique or a really fast recipe, I call that a short, and that's what you're watching today. If you would, once this is over, please take a look at my channel. There's some good stuff there. And folks, thank you for watching. Let's get in the kitchen. Today I'm going to be making, well, what I'm actually making doesn't really matter. I'm making tamales, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about chili paste. This is a lesson that, I guess unless you've watched one of my tamale videos or one of the other Tex-Mex videos that I've made, or maybe barbecue sauce, you may not be aware of how to make a good quality chili paste. And in case you're wondering, why would I want to make chili paste? Well, it works like this. If you've ever used paprika, you know, the dried spice, or cayenne, or chili powder, or anything like that, then this is definitely a show for you. Chili paste is sort of like the fresh version of that powdered substance. This is the kind of thing that you can make ahead of time, have in your freezer, have in the refrigerator. It's ready to use when you want it. It's a really neat product that can also be placed on a food dehydrator if you own one. You can dry that paste and then process it into a powder, and boom, you've created your own ancho powder, or maybe your own chipotle powder. Any kind of chili you want to use will work. Okay, so you have a lot of choices in what I'm about to teach you today. And there's a lot of ways of processing chilies, and we're going to discuss old ways of processing, the way it was done by hand, and the way it was done when blenders came on the scene, and the way I'm going to teach you is going to be very unique. We're going to use a food mill. We're going to create a very high quality product, high grade product, the kind that can be marketed even. So this is really good quality stuff, and it's easy to make and it's fun to do. So let's take a look at our chilies, and let me show you how we make chili paste. Come on. I have several different chilies sitting out here. It doesn't matter if you're doing a chili paste with just one chili or combining them. This is actually for a recipe that I'm doing. I'm going to be, like I said earlier, I'm going to be making some tamales. And so I'm making my chili paste for that. But you can do this with a single type of chili and make, like, say, a whole bunch of just this, which would be the guajillo. And this makes great enchilada sauce. Okay, this is the stuff right here to make your best enchilada sauce with. But it's often combined with bits of this, which is your ancho, or maybe bits of this, which is your chipotle, or sometimes even the pasilla. And so there's ways of making wonderful tasting pastes. You're just going to have to experiment with some of those. Now, I have some combinations that are really good, and of course you'll see those in my recipes, and you ought to take a close look at the way I do those. But I find each one lends certain beautiful characteristics. Now, when it comes to processing these, the first thing that we have to do is to get water inside of the dried meat that's inside of this chili. So we've got to open up the skin, which is quite water resistant, and that way the water can get in there. I just split them open with a knife, and I get them in hot water. You do not have to use boiling water for this. If you choose to, you can, but I want to caution, don't actually boil the chilies themselves. That would overcook them, overprocess them, and it's not going to be good. What we want is to get the meat on the inside of that skin soft and rehydrated so that it can be separated from the skin, the seeds, and that stem. We're looking for complete separation, not just getting it broken down. So when it comes time for me to process out my chilies, these little bitty ones, guys, I don't really do a whole lot to them. If you want, you can take them and just kind of crack them open, and that'll speed up their hydration. But as far as actually trying to get those cut, I don't bother. So I just give them a snap. If they're broken over like that, it makes it easy. And there's going to be a lot of seeds flying here, so don't worry about that. We'll get all of that cleaned up in due time. There we go. The larger chilies like these, I'll usually just line them up and give them a little slice. Doesn't have to be anything pretty. Okay, as long as they're opened up, that's going to do the trick. I do want to mention these chilies, and especially these chipotles, are sometimes very, very hard to cut. They're dry, okay, and so they're quite difficult. So you want to choke up on that knife and pinch the blade so it doesn't roll in your hand like this, because that can cause problems for you. So choke up, get some weight on the top of that, and split those evenly, okay? We have the chilies all soaking now. They're in water. So what I want to do is just give these time, and they're going to need plenty of time, okay? On average, when I soak chilies, it usually runs between 2 to 3 hours at least worth of soaking. So give them plenty of time so they get really soft. Then we'll process them through the mill. Folks, over the centuries, different things have been used to process different foods. Now we're going to talk about first one of the very oldest there is. Long, long, long ago, thousands of years back, you had nomadic man that was roaming around. They would find depressions in rocks in the ground and take other stones and grind away at whatever they had that needed to be ground down. Okay, and they would do that. All right, and they used stones for a lot of things, for arrows to tip their bows, or their for arrowheads, excuse me, to tip their arrows with. Also, you know, for scrapers to scrape hides, and for grinders, and all kinds of different stones were used in different ways. So we go back to that. We have here the molcajete. We have here a mortise and pestle. There are, oh, excuse me, a mortar and pestle. I'm sorry. I'm carpenter, so I'm always thinking in other terms. Even though they have different nomenclature for what the item is, it's still the same item, folks. Whether it's made of marble and it looks really fashionable, or if it's made a little more crude in its design and it's done of volcanic stone, it's the same tool. All right. So this will work, and it needs to be said. If you're going to use one of these things for processing a chili paste, split your chilies like I've done, soak them in water, scrape the pulp out of the inside with a dull knife, you know, like a table knife or a spoon, and then put the pulp in here without the skins or seeds. That will make it so much nicer. Now, you're still going to have to process that pulp because it's kind of stringy, it's fibrous, but this will do that well. A long time ago, it used to be that Hispanic people would process their chilies by boiling them first, then place the chilies in the molcajete, and that was, of course, after the seeds had been removed and stems. And they would take that with some of the water, and then they would process. Okay, and a really neat way of doing it, but just one problem. You get a lot of the skin in the product that way if you don't scrape that pulp free from the skin prior to the processing. Okay, so this will work, but it's a bit old-fashioned. Then came something a little more modern. We found this thing called electricity. And of course, this, believe it or not, came about after this. But I want to talk about this because this is the go-to item that people turn to when it comes to processing chilies. They boil the chili, then they place it in here, and they give it a good hard spin. And once it's been blended off, you know, pureed, they then run it through a strainer with a spatula. Guys, well, let me tell you, we're talking about a lot of extra work. If you're going to try doing that, it's really not worth your time, okay? This produces an inferior product in the end. This produces more of a sauce, and it's a little more bitter because it has bits and fragments of skin and seed that cannot be removed. Where, on the other hand, if we pull in some old-fashioned technology and a different approach, we use what's called a food mill. Now, food mill's a neat item. Food mill has a grate in the bottom of it. That grate can be large holes or medium holes like this, or small holes like I have in here now. The food mill simply takes food that's dropped into this hopper here, and the paddle in the bottom, which is, as you can see, tapered in its shape, pulls the food under and presses it down through the sieve on the bottom. Well, simple enough. Does it do a good, clean job? Absolutely. Nice thing about this, you get none of the skins, none of the seeds. Only the pulp gets pushed down through this or worked through this grate right here. And once it does, you've taken care of that fibrous quality, so you don't need to process it off any other way. This is going to give you a smooth, clean paste right from the very start. And that paste can be turned into sauces or can be turned into a powder. It can be used in multiple ways, and including you can freeze it and use it for, cubes to drop into soup and chilies and things like that. I do want to take a moment to show you the right way to set up a food mill. There's right and wrong about these things, okay? And the instructions that most of them come with are about as clear as mud from what I've been able to see. The paddle, you have an open side and a closed side, and one side that's all the way down against the plate, and that's right down here. We need to get the paddle in the right position in order to get this bar that holds it in there without denting the sieve. You don't want to dent your sieve. Okay, so we put this so that the open side of the paddle faces the side we're going to remove or install. That way there's less resistance. Now there's a large spring on this thing, and it's right underneath this bar which holds it in place. They all pretty much come the same way, guys. They work the same way. You have your paddle, and in the bottom, the sieve simply pops in and out. The sieve generally goes with the rough side up, okay? And it'll look like it's in there backward, but that's correct. Put the peg on the bottom into the hole, of course. And this again is important. Put one side of the bar that holds it in place into its clip. And they have different kinds of clips between brands, but they, like I say, they all work in very similar ways. So with this in the right position so that the open side of the paddle is facing toward me and that part that's hitting the plate is away from me, I then can push down easily to snap this into place, just like so. All right, that's in place. These are designed to set on the side of either a bowl or a pot. In this case, I'm going to use a pot, and it just hangs right here. Now mine has these cleats that are really unique. Some of them have little feet that stick out on the sides. Others just set down inside of whatever bowl or pot you're using. Make sure you have something in that this sets on, okay? And now this is set up and ready to process our chilies. Makes for a nice little setup. Folks, my soaking has finished on the chilies here, and I have begun putting them in my food mill. I started by just slicing the garlic. I threw that in there. So if you want other things to flavor, you can do that. In this case, we're talking about making just chili paste. So it's not really about garlic or anything so much as it is, what do we do with these chilies? Now the little ones like this, if you want to remove the stem, you can. Or if you just want to take them, grab them the way they are and throw them down into the food mill, that's fine. That stem won't affect anything. On the larger ones, I'll pull the meat free from the stem, and that stem and seed pod I just throw over in a separate bowl. And I pretty much do all of them that way. See there? This is one of those anchos, and it's gotten really puffed up. Now as I mentioned, that meat, see here? I can use my thumb and I'll push the meat right off of the skin. And this is what I was talking about earlier. There's the skin, where you separate that pulp from the skin and then process it in your molcajete, and that gives you a pure paste that way. But that's a lot of work, folks. I won't lie about it. If you're going to go to those lengths, you're going to get a good product, but it is extra work. There we go. Big old anchos. They yield a lot of meat, and so do the pasillas. Now I'll say this. You'll notice that there's a lot of different colors going on here. You got some bright red stuff going on. You got some deep brown. You got some of this tan going on. All right. And different chilies, yeah, I've got different colors. So it's not going to affect flavor. But just remember, a chili powder could come out a dark brown or a bright red or orange, just depending on which chili you use. That's better. We can see right in here. when we're going to do our milling, of course, it's as simple as crank the paddle. This doesn't take a lot of time, guys. I will probably be milling this for somewhere between 6 to 8 minutes of total cranking time. Not that much time, not that much work. And what I'm going to get from this is going to be the most remarkable, pure, clean paste you'll ever see. And what will be left up in here are going to be some dry, husky looking skins packed around the side and all kind of clumped up together. You'll see what I mean here in a minute because I'm about to show you. Now on your food mill, occasionally if you'll go backwards, it'll knock loose any skins that are sticking against the milling grate, the sieve itself, and allow you to pull some fresh chilies down to mill them. And look, just those few moments, and we already have that much going on. So a lot of this has been milled. Underneath here, we have some very interesting. Let me clean off my spatula. We're going to take a look right now. Right there. There's our chili paste. A little garlic with it. You can see that was the white. Okay. I need to put the rest of my chilies in here and then finish milling this out. And you'll be surprised when you see the end product how much paste we really do get from it. It's a lot. A whole lot. Folks, my milling is finished. I have, as I mentioned before, there are a bunch of dead husks, just dead skins on the top. On the bottom, in the pot there's already a bunch of paste. There's also a lot more right here. This intense, beautiful chili paste. Now here we have a good clean product. I don't have any seeds in there. I don't have any skins or skin fragments in there. I've got just good, clean chili paste and nothing else. Well, in the case of mine, there's a little garlic, but you know what I'm talking about here. Only the seeds and skins and that stuff, and they have been completely stripped dry of all of the paste that's on them. By the way, my milling was, I would say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 minutes. It was kind of short, and I got it all done quickly. That's the advantage of soaking the chilies long. This goes fast if you do that. Now we get a closer look at just how much was actually milled. Look at that. Folks, this is a lot of chili paste right here. A lot. That is going to make a lot of sauce if I make a chili sauce with it. I can, like I said, I can take this at this point, spread it thin on my trays in a food dehydrator for trays that handle purees, and I get a fantastic product. Look at that. So whether I dry it and turn it into something I can sprinkle or leave it as a paste like this, this is the advantage in using that food mill and making a chili paste that's really worth the trouble. There you have it. Simple stuff, beautiful, and frankly, delicious. Well, there it was, folks. That's all there is to it. It was a quickie today, and if you would like, please take a look at my channel. There's some great videos there. I've got a lot of episodes up and running. There are wonderful recipes, and if you can't find what you're looking for, type it in the suggestions below, and you'll be surprised how many recipe requests I fulfill. Thank you for watching. Please share this video, and folks, please have a good day. Bye-bye.